the right of self-determination. That down. I'm going to show you the definition before I get into how we use this, but I'm going to just bring up a document right quick. Also, write this document down and download it. It's called the International Political Rights. This is the top law of the United States, meaning it's the top law of your state, and it's the top law of your city. It's called the International Political Rights. When you're part of something, even part of a club, the first thing you are given, usually given, is the rules, the guide of that club that you're in. Otherwise, you won't know how to engage, what responsibilities you have or rights you have inside of that club, what you can do, what you should be doing. Same thing for a nation. If you're part of a nation, constitution of that nation, you should read it. If you're part of a state, you know that state constitution. If you're part of the city constitution, which is usually called a charter, which you're going to go over. But this is the top law of all of those because it was ratified by the United States government. It's two, meaning it became the top law of the United States. So it's very important to know this document. Very important. What's the first thing it says? We're going somewhere. Bear with me for a few minutes, but it's gonna get better once you get tools for your betterment and benefit. It says all self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political, pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. So this is the number one thing you want Black people to know about. All peoples, meaning you, us, Black people, we have the right of that means we can determine our political status and pursue our own economic, social, and layman's terms. It means since Black people were conquered and enslaved by others, then they so-called let us free to be under their political system, right? To collectively say, hold on, we don't want to bend to your political system. We don't like the way your economy is, that we are unequal in your economy. We don't like the fact that we were being perpetual poverty economic system. We don't like the way you run your society. We don't like your culture. We don't like nothing about you. We don't like police brutality. We don't like gentrification, homelessness, messed up. Matter of fact, we opt to assert our right of self-determination. Detroit, for instance. We want to stand up and govern ourselves. Definitely in Detroit, hundreds of thousands of empty properties around us, and 80% or more of us are functionally. Detroit is almost over 50% below the poverty level. Reparations anyway. Why don't you give us our reparations? We don't like the fact that the police is brutalizing us inside the so-called justice system. We don't like any of this. So we're going to take over from you. Sounds crazy and radical. That's what we have a right to do. We don't have to live in living there, especially when it's admitted that the government is violated. Bear with me. Can you see the screen, Comrade Malaki?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is some stuff about Detroit. It happens in all cities. Homeowners, $600 million. Years later, abolitions. Black people all over America are seeking reparations for slavery. Yeah, Detroit, $600 million they just stole. They left out their mark for the poor communities that the developers and the government allocated to the development right quickly. $600 million. Homeowners by at least $600 million between 2010 and 2016. I'm going to go over something that is in the Human Rights Policy Office, you'll be that they state inside of this article that the government of Detroit, get to it in a minute. Let me read a couple of things. At the root of the new idea that the overtaxation was dehumanizing, because it's humanizing, and systemic. May the system dehumanize the people. Listen to this dignity. Listen. These, they were systemic. They gutted out our neighborhoods. I lost my home. I didn't just lose a structure. I lost my health, my footing. I lost confidence in myself. Then, the city really needs to know that when you put the community in these positions, you're not just taking it, you're taking the American dream from us. You're taking what some of us are so proud to gain, family home. Then it happened, and when it happened to me, it almost destroyed my family. We're going somewhere with this. Anyone who owned a home in the city and lived in a between 2010 and 2013 would have been eligible, which almost about 1,000 residents. And the plan they're proposing only cost the city $6 million plan, yet the people were robbed of over $600 million. Because they don't have the money. They don't have the money. There's robbed and have nothing for the people. Try to give them a plan where they can get a 50% discount now. Come on. The city's compensation must provide options for each person's individual resident's dignity. Listen, I want to read something in particular from this. The city shot down the bigger plan. Why did they shoot down this plan? Any action that leads to a budget deficit automatically triggers the return mission's complete control over city finances. City spokesman John Roach, they told the Free Press, and dig this, listen closely, human rights policy officers. We've seen that once again leads to Detroit's loss of self. Did y'all see that? Y'all hear that?
Yes.
Anything that once again leads to Detroit's loss of self-determination. Thank you for saying here to give the people their self-determination, to help the people assert their self-determination. Mr. Roach, this people's assertion of self-determination gets rid of you and the rest of those who even refuse to even do something about it because you fear in losing some control. In Michigan, where you're under control, out of control yourself. That's what the city council members say. Detroit City Council discussing measures to stop illegal. Everybody, bear with us, Detroit. Talk about the illegal. There was over 130,000 people affected, and other council members saying, I went down to the 36th district court and it's evicted illegally and with the assistance. So you mean to tell me the police department itself is evicting hundreds of thousands of people are getting legally evicted and nothing about it? My God. Bear with us. What's this? This is the United Nations. I hope y'all heard of the United Nations before. It's a top body in the world. The United States is a member. They even have a headquarters in New York City in September. All the world countries coming together. They meet every year. Listen, this is what they say. This is the law. Forced eviction rights. That's the title of this. The practice of forced evictions, violation of human rights, in particular the right to adequate housing on human rights, resolution 1993-7. It's a human rights abuse. So they're violating human rights. The government itself. So what happens when the government is in violation of your rights. What do you supposed to be the one protecting your human rights? Listen, an intervention, a legal analysis. Let me read something for you. Intervention is a means to prevent or stop a gross violation of a state where certain government means government, either incapable or unwilling to protect its own people, actively persecuting them. But the state is the one that's persecuting them. Then intervention is called for. What's humanitarian intervention? When somebody comes in and just stops it. Even means. I said that we're doing in Detroit. That's why this is a human rights policy officers hosted town hall meeting and orientation into the right of self-determination, because it's part of the law. It's our right and responsibility to actually intervene. Matter of fact, they got a declaration passed. The United States is part of this declaration. Look at your screen. It says Declaration on the Right and Responsibility of Individuals and Organs of Society to Promote and Protect Universally Rights and Fundamental Freedoms. Meaning somebody got to stop this. What's going on in the government? Who's doing it is not going to stop it. So who's going to stop it? Besides the responsibility, meaning individuals themselves have a right to stop it. Human rights policy officers, we are an organization, an organ of to promote. We're teaching that what this call is about your human rights. Your human rights. You have a right to that house. You have a right of self-determination to do itself and grant yourselves the houses, grant yourselves reparations, brutality, even in the police department itself, and pardon content. We're going somewhere with this. Bear with me. But this calls the right determination, the right to self-determination. We're just showing you what you have a right to do that everybody else that may be from other areas. We don't have to put up with what's going on. You have to remain hundreds of thousands of homes. But what black people in America live is 3 to 5 million. Yet there's millions of homeless black people, functionally homeless black people. A perpetual poverty, yet reparations is a human right they've yet to condition that was caused from slavery. We don't have to wait on how we're going to take action. I'm going to go over that in a minute. All self-determination. You're going over some things about some lawyers. These are lawyers that we share. This is a professor of law out of Georgia State University, Florida Temple University Law School. It says all people have a right to self-determination. There's a subheading, and inside the subheading it reads, subordinate beauties on which they act without a dominating people or group's permission. That's what this lawyer is trying to establish. That's the matter of fact he's trying to establish even before this publication, this article. The fact that under his jurisprudence, domination, that's your right. You don't have to ask for your right. You just assert your right. You have a freedom to speak freely and petition and ask the government, can you speak freely? It's given. So you just speak to assembly. So you just assemble. When the police stop, you have a right to remain silent. You don't have to go to the government and march and say, hey, can I have a right to remain silent when the police stop me? You assert rights. You don't ask for rights. They're already given. They acknowledge rights. These documents just acknowledge that you have these rights. Just acknowledge that it's right over the properties. Now, in fact, before I even share this, let me share this. This is the Detroit City Charter. Can you still see the screen coming? Detroit City Charter. If you're from Detroit, Google and download your City Charter. That the City Charter gives you. We're going somewhere with this. This is how we can have free homes. This is how we can have reparations in Detroit. This is how we can let our brothers and sisters out of them jailhouses and also get rid of the police department if needs be. city charter says. And this applies to every city. Every city. If you do organizational chart, then look at the images of that Google result, you'll see the charts. And the number one thing on the top of the chart is the residents of that city, or citizens of that city. Detroit city charter says. Detroit city government recognizes its subordination to the people of the because they sound lofty like position are the lowest positions in society. A mayor is a lower position at McDonald's. Study it in this context. A lower position at a McDonald's cook. Because the McDonald's cook is doing a job, it can quit, nobody can serve it or not serve them. They can quit and I'm not, but a mayor is supposed to do whatever people tell them to do, whatever the residents tell them to do. You can't go in McDonald's. It's not part of their job description, then they still can quit. It says Detroit's institution that recognizes its subordination to the people. And it's under the, but when in the history of Detroit, or the history of anywhere in America, besides their power, that's why they run up in the Capitol building on January 6th. They know their power. That's why white folks ran up in the state in Michigan, because they know that they have power. They ran up in there with machine guns. Because the government is under the orders of the people, but we never get to, we'll sit there and cry about the fact that the land bank is still in our homes, still in condemned homes like they did to Miss, what's her name? Miss Louise, I don't know what her last name, maybe Owens, Adams, Miss Adams. So a condemned home, home that the water wasn't even, and the city part side of the road wasn't even connected to the water. Now they want to make up. But they can do these type of things because they think you're under them to give orders and take control. Until now, that's what this calls about. Until now, listen, now we got a jurisprudence on which we can act without asking permission. Determination, you just come in and take over if the people agree with it. And everybody in Detroit agrees with what we are doing. In Detroit, we are intervening. It's humanitarian intervention because your human rights are being violated. In Detroit is doing nothing about besides marching and holding up picket signs. And you can't sleep. You can't eat no picket sign. What these lawyers say? Are African Americans, I'm reading from this document written by Professor Law, saying, look, black people, you ain't got to ask for nothing. Assert your right of self-determination. This is what lawyers are saying. Are African Americans and other people engaging in or even considering decolonization? Are we moving towards this, simply asking for superficial adjustments to the status quo? In other words, take the self-determination seriously and act on it. We don't want it. Are we marching and voting and hoping and waiting for them to do right by us where we live? The right to take control of and treat ourselves justly. How do you act on the right of self-determination? According to the 1970 Declaration, these are laws. These are laws we should know if we knew we are in. I say we're in because in Detroit that's changing as we speak. 1970 Declaration of the Principle of International Law Concerning Friendly Relations. It reads this, quote, the establishment of a sovereign and independent state, comma, the free association or integration with the independent state, or the emergence of any other political status freely determined by implementing the right of self-determination. I mean, the people in the truck can get together and say, look, we want no government at We want no police. We want no government. We just want to live, period. We just respect each other's property, choose that as well, as a collective. If we can all agree to that, at least a majority of us will agree to free housing, agree to monetary reparations. I'm sure. Well, will we act on it? As these lawyers are saying, will we? Are saying, here's another statement this lawyer made. Should we move beyond the and frame our struggles in terms of decolonization and self-determination for us? Talking about the professor. Professor Richardson does not presume. This is a professor who wrote this. A professor, people that assert their right to self-determination just simply take over and give themselves what they desire. He said does not presume to undertake that task for us, for by definition, women should exercise their right to self-determination. Rather, he identifies tools available into us. These are tools in law that we're just availing to the people. And look, you don't have to be treated like you're being treated. You don't have to suffer like you're suffering. It's another conference of lawyers. A whole bunch of lawyers, scholars, judges, and doctors of law got together in 1993 and held a conference. What was the title of the African Americans and the right to self-determination? They held it in 1993 because the United States ratified that covenant we shared with you earlier, protected the right of self-determination. So these black people decided to get together and say, hold on, fight this. So now we can move beyond just protesting, boycotting, voting, and hoping that people can change their condition immediately. That was in 1993. Here we go in 20 because none of us even know we have a right of self-determination. Bear with us. This is what these lawyers say. Historically, rights of African Americans in the United States have been discussed in terms of United States constitutional law, U.S. civil rights, rather than in the broader international legal framework of human and collective rights. Important recent developments and perspectives raise new questions. In September 1995, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights developed under the Austrian nations. This covenant protects the right to self-determination. So these lawyers conference, and this conference cost plenty of money, and it took from these lawyers time for holding this conference because it was so important to the lot of black people find themselves in America. This is the most important situation. If the United States now says, look, determination. Immediately after this conference, black organizations should have got sprung into action and ourselves. Every last black person should be willing to go and have reparations by now. Only the lawyers, and these lawyers are not the activists. Listen. Professor of law right here. Bear with us. We're going to open the floor up in a minute. We just got to learn. This is a doctor of law, but he's also a religious studies. So he's gone from a Christian context. This is a white Christian government that, look, not only do African Americans have a right to, it's Christian, it's biblical to allow them their right of self-determination. Lawyer / preacher, theologian, trying to explain that it's part of Christian ethics to allow black people their right of self-determination. Yet, the fact that we have a right of self-determination. He says, I argue that the new entity of the right to self-determination can be usefully employed within Christian secure, cultural, moral, and legal changes needed to secure race states. This is a statement I want to read from this document. Listen to what he's saying. Page 5. Listen. Listen. If we look outside the experience of the dominant culture in the United States, there are signs of a new approach that has begun to appear. The imaginative possibility that beckons us is the new international of self-determination. See, if we look outside the experience of the dominant culture, they're ignorant. We don't even know anything. If we look outside, we'll see it's a new approach. As his lawyer was explaining in the other document, there's a lawyer here, but he's saying the same thing. And that's the approach of self-determination. Why are black people still doing the same thing over and over again, injustice, and then not even discussing or self-determination? Bear with me. Here it goes again. Here it goes again. There's another lawyer. Wow. There's an American attorney. There's an attorney, another attorney speaking. Because of the police brutality, but because of everything. Some feel that the American thus cannot address the challenges that these others argue that the domestic system is working perfectly and work against black people. So it's working perfectly because it's designed against us anyway. And other minorities. Whichever view one takes, it is clear that the legitimacy of the American legal order, and that is, it is unable to provide answers to the challenges raised. The domestic system is not seen as one that can affect change. What other avenues are open to minorities in America? Avenue is the right to self-determination. These are lawyers speaking. It's been poetically described as the people to decide their own destiny. Mosaically, it ensures a people's right to govern themselves or participate in. My God, what lawyers are saying. I'm not going to, but besides our last words, we're going to open up the floor from our brother, Dr. King, in direction. This is the Dr. King that we don't hear about because they killed. I think this meeting is the one that set the course for them to orchestrate his. After 12 years, Dr. King had realized that voting and marching wasn't the answer for a more radical and new approach to change the conditions. So he held a meeting in 1967 to discuss a new strategy, something that can actually, he said, we have moved from the era of with civil rights. Y'all, this way things are going, just protest, petition, the things that civil rights and do, we have a grievance against the system. Human rights says, just forget it. Create your own system. Overthrow that system. That's your human right. That's your right to self-determination. That's it. He said, listen, I'm going to read this one thing from him. Then after Selma, voting rights bill, we move era, which must be an era of, I think we must see the great distinction between a reform movement and a revolutionary movement Detroit to do. That's what we're doing. Detroit is a revolution. Revolution don't mean you got to bring guns, start taking control because we have a right to take over. Unless you like what's going on in Detroit. Anybody on this call can find a neighbor, a friend, a community member, even an enemy in Detroit going on in Detroit. Besides the mayor himself, and probably the city who's benefiting from what's going on. Well, if that's so, then are we still in that condition? If the majority doesn't agree with it, because the majority doesn't organize and take over itself and immediately put themselves in a better condition, put ourselves in abundance in Detroit. But that's what this call is about. It's about a certain right of right to simply organize, stand up, and take control, and that's what we're bringing to a closure. And Detroit to do is simply just be aware of what we're doing. Be aware that human rights policy come into Detroit, and coming to Detroit to intervene. It's a human rights abuse. Help you all to assert your right of self-determination. While I live in Detroit, help us determination. We are taking control lawfully. And if they try to push lawfully, we might have to bust some heads. They have to get the violence on this call, but that's what we're going to have to do. Because it's a death sentence when you evict somebody. You evict 100,000 people in one summer, that's giving them a death sentence. So what do you do to protect your life? This is very serious what we're doing. This is what we are going to be doing in Detroit. Elsewhere, but we're talking about Detroit, what we have a right to do. We want Detroit because this could have been handled a few years ago when we rallied tens of thousands of people. The government got panicked because they saw the people power coming to shut them down. So what did the government do? Media, social media, got on news media and started calling names. That's a scam. I said, oh, it's a scam. Never even questioned the fact that we don't ask for anything. So could have been handled then, but they used hybrid warfare. Defame, that's a violation of human rights as well. Defamation. They even blockaded the human right of assembly. And those same police officers that stop you for the ones illegally evict you. A city council member just said that herself. You have illegally evicted hundreds of thousands of people. So we're going to ask you, well, some of you, if you're able-bodied, especially men, want you to stand up with us and be aware of what's going on in Detroit. Because it might get ugly. And if it gets ugly, it's because they're making it get ugly, because we're not going to sit here and still let you be violated. It got to stop somewhere. And somebody has to put a stop to that knows that you Detroit know about it, but they refuse to stand against the system because the system is almighty and powerful. But I believe in rights policy officers. We don't believe in the system's might. We believe in what's right. Assert what's right, and that's helping you to assert your right of self-determination. We're taking charge of to those who need those, and we will protect you in those properties. Our website on is Detroit Gov. Go get neighborsandfriends.us. You'll see the website in the chat section and register their consent. Consent is our power base because that's the will of the people. Whatever the people say, look, we want the streets painted purple. You know what? They better get some purple paint and be painting those streets who have spoken. Even if it sounds crazy. Anyway, 700,000 black people, the blackest city in America, are white. A city with hundreds of thousands of income, the city is functionally homeless. How does that look? 40,000 literally. A city that's worth over $600 billion and devalued 80% or more is below the poverty level. How does that look? $600 billion, give everybody $100,000 and still have hundreds of. We're just doing things the wrong way. But we're going to follow the suggestion of law is if you don't like the way you're being governed, then alter or abolish that system and benefit you. That's what we're doing in Detroit. I'm going to open up this floor for questions, for discussion, questions, answers, input, critiques. Please chime in and do not be shy. You have stage fright. You're shy. You can write your question or input in the chat box. The hotline number is 888-999-6530. But we need all hands. And somewhere else, we need everybody in Detroit. We're going to make an example in Detroit Detroit. We have to make an example. Example is going to be in Detroit. Comrade Dan, if you're on the call, you can just click to this call so we can make it go by smoothly and peacefully.
Yes, sir. My name is Daniel Guthrie, Senior Human Rights Policy Officer. I'm here to give some simple rules to help the call, as Comrade Ramsey said, go smoothly, where everyone can have the opportunity to question, give a comment or a critique, or if they have an idea that they may just hold back. If you have something in your head that you think need to be said, say it, or either. But first of all, we're all going to keep our mics muted until we're ready to ask a question. Tap your screen, your mic will highlight. You ask your question, then you shut your mic back down. Cameras muted. And we don't bring fear here. We're not concerned about what they're going to do. Everything he said, these are lawyers that's speaking. These are, we're just involved. The right of self-determination. There's nothing they can do legally to stop us. If they try to do it illegally, we're going to stop them. That's just the way it is. That's what. But in any case, remember, don't bring the fear. If you start with that, what they're going to do. So share this information. Write this stuff down. Take it to heart. You'll be really confident in what's been said here and what you're going to say to your family and even your enemies. Because if once your enemies find out that you have this information is factual, they will no longer be your enemies. They will be your friends. They will join the situation. So remember, people, this is your life. This is the lives for your kids. Do it for your grandchildren and for your posterity to come. We're to educate, promote, and defend your human rights. Thank you.
The floor is now open for questions, answers, input, as well as critique. All you have to do on your screen. We appreciate everybody's participation on the discussion.
I want to salute everybody extraordinary. I want to thank Sister Janie Earl for sister. I hope you don't be shy. I hope you go ahead and give us a little bit of your mind.
Comrade Jenny, how you doing, sister? Salute. The floor is yours.
Screen and your mic should highlight.
We can't hear. Any other comment?
Hold on. Open her mic.
Go ahead.
It's closed. It's open now. Sister J, if you want to type a question, go ahead to the chat back in.
Go disconnect and come back in if it's having problems. So Sierra, are you still there? Do you have any questions?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I do have a question. When you were saying and stuff earlier, I'm kind of dealing with being in a home that's owned by Detroit Land Bank for like 2 years, and I had joined a buyback program, so I own the house, and then somebody else came in and purchased the home. They in the process of getting fixed on, they told us like 4 weeks to have all our stuff moved so they can start on the house. This is back in like May. Once I was able to move everything so they could keep the house, she then locked the changed the locks to the doors. Still have stuff inside the home, and now she's telling me that they're gonna put
My God. My God. So you
she misled me and told me that she printed up the lease paperwork and
yeah, send a private message to Comrade Malaki or Dan with your number.
okay.
Or me.
I'm sending her a private message right now.
Okay. Yeah, that's so you're not in the house anymore, Sarah?
I still have my DCE. She changed the locks to the door.
When did you do that?
Huh? She did this like after the 4 weeks she gave me to move my stuff. I only moved like my big storage, and then I still had like my minor, like little small stuff. She the locks to the door after the 4 weeks that she gave me to. She was making it. She made it seem like they just want to fix the house or whatever, and I come back to a new what have you. I still have all my paperwork and everything to the house. And voices and stuff from the land bank.
No, that's not.
Make sure you hold on to that paperwork.
No, they can't. So, but nobody's in the house now.
Not because changed the lots. Now, when I was coming by there to get mail and stuff, my son, his medical supplies and stuff he dropped off there. There was a guy who was staying inside the home. He claimed to be the contractor. But just this week, actually last week, moved the rest of my stuff, or they would be sitting it out on the street. I ain't been to court.
That's definitely illegal. Now, they supposed to be in the court. You're supposed to have all that stuff.
Yeah, so I don't know. Contact the land bank and inform them because this ain't where I put my stuff out. But
the land bank is part of that. Land bank is part of that. That's why, as far as we're concerned. Yeah.
So little comrade, can I? And only the sheriff can put you out the house. Only the sheriff of the.
yeah, that's what I was told.
Yeah, that's why the police are legally putting people out, and definitely the people there, but without the police, they are illegally now.
Yeah, she said that the workers was going to put my, and we communicate through text messages, so everything is in the text message.
Yeah, comrade Dan, comrade.
Yes, sir. Yes, that's what I'm sitting here thinking on right now. If you have numbers to any of these folks that you've been dealing with, communication, that's why Comrade Malaki is going to get your number, and she's going to transfer it to me. We're going to do something about this ASAP.
Okay.
Yeah, that's uncalled for. Yeah, please spread the word. Let you people let this thing down in September. You shut it down.
Ramsey, we have a question in the chat from Sister Janie. She says, information to Washington, D.C.
50 years ago,